Hello, this is my latest book haul video. It's not been a particularly good period, so I'm going to whip through these fairly quickly and not spend a lot of time on them. I will also cover a couple of extra things to hopefully add a bit of interest to the video. In previous videos I mentioned the bookshop that allows one to take up to 3 books free, and that shop had been closed probably for 7 or 8 of the last 10 weeks. But one of my recent visits I did get these 3 books, which are the first 3 books of the Thraxus series by Martin Scott. I think there were at least 8, there may be more since I last checked. And I got these basically as reading copies, and here is book 1. And basically the story is about a private investigator who enjoys his drink and his food and other vices, and a friend who goes around in a chainmail bikini. As you may tell from that, it is a fairly light-hearted book, plenty of action, nothing serious. And I can't remember whether this is number 2 or number 3, but I got the first 3 as reading copies. They've all got reasonable spines. They've all got 1 or 2 moderate cover creases, but generally in not bad condition and certainly excellent as reading copies. And I have started, I'm about 100 pages into book 1 at the moment, and I think I'm going to enjoy it. So as a little diversion, as there's not too much in this video, I thought I'd just cover the other books I've read over the last 2 to 3 months. And I'll just start with these. The Andromeda trilogy by William C. Dietz. Military SF. He's a good writer, but to me it's very standard military SF. I don't think you will get any special satisfaction from these books, but they are quite readable, and if you enjoy military SF, they're a decent way to pass the time. So I wouldn't knock them, but nothing special. Another book that in a previous video I said I was 2/3 of the way through is Babel. I've now finished that. I think good concept, well written, and the only thing I would say is, I don't know whether others would agree, but I did feel it was perhaps overlong and may have benefited by being edited down by 10 or 15%. That's my view. Feel free to disagree. And the last book I'll show you, something different, something I would never have picked up myself, but it was given to me by a friend who'd managed to find the hardback, and he'd enjoyed it, and he passed his reading copy on to me, and it's this one, My Brother's Ghost by Alan Ahlberg. It's a puffing book, and this is a 10th reprint. It was first printed in 2000. This is the puffing paperback was published in 2001, and as it describes it on the back, a marvellous evocation of a working class 1950s childhood and a spine-tingling ghost story. That's what The Guardian said about it, and I would say it's a nice book. It's a nice read. It's short, it's thin, and large text, but I would say if you see a copy cheap, is worth a read and it is different. Now I will go on to those I've picked up in the last few weeks. I'll say no other A format paperback, so I'll go straight onto the B formats. This one I spotted. I think I've got one other Christopher Fowler book. This is Psychoville. The thing I like about this book is it's a paperback that has a dust jacket, and I am rather partial to those. I can't say anything about the book, but I was quite pleased to pick that one up. Another book that I've got is Titus Awakes, which is a sequel to the Gormenghast trilogy. Other than that, I know nothing about it. I think it was this one was written in 2011. Yeah, published in 2011. I can't really say any more about it, but I hadn't got it, so I thought I'd add it to my collection. I have got the Gormenghast trilogy. Probably the cheapest charity shop I know sells books at £3 for £1. So basically anything decent will be snapped up quick, and normally I never find anything. I did go in the other day and I got 3 books. Books 7 and 8 of The Expanse, and to make up the numbers I got The Burning Sky by Sherry Thomas, so a fantasy book. It was the only other book there that was either science fiction or fantasy. Of these two, number 7 was a reprint and number 8 was a nice first printing. I have 1 to 6 in paperback, so I was quite pleased to pick up 2 more. I do have 7 to 9 in hardback, but it would be nice to complete a paperback set. The next item I'll show you, something I spotted in the shop. I hadn't seen the edition before. I have the title in another edition, and that's High Rise by J.G. Ballard. And it was paired with the DVD, which has the same artwork or cover, if you like. So I was quite pleased to get that, and I thought I would keep that, as obviously J.G. Ballard is very collectible. The next book I'll show you is a rather unusual one. I'd certainly never seen it before, never considered the author before, but it was reasonable. It was £2 and I thought I would buy it. It's this one, The Best Supernatural Stories of Wilkie Collins, selected and introduced by Peter Haining. Nice book, cost me £2. Unfortunately it was price clipped and it has got an inscription in, but otherwise generally a nice book and apparently quite uncommon. So I don't know what I will make of it if and when I get round to it. The next book I'll show you is a Stranger Things book. Now I'm sure everyone heard about that series. This was the first book, the first hardback on that series. This is Suspicious Minds by Gwenda Bond. I did have the second book in hardback, so I thought I'd keep an eye open for the first. I've seen the odd second printing around. This is the first time I've seen a first printing. It was a couple of pounds, so I thought I would get it. So quite pleased to get that. And my final hardback is this one, The Ladies of Grace Adieu by Susanna Clark. Obviously, I think well known for Doctor Strange and Mr. Norrell, which I haven't got round to reading, and I know I really ought to at some point. So I can't say very much about this. I don't know much about it, but it was fair. You know, it wasn't dear, so I thought it was worth getting. And sorry, on mass market B format paperbacks, I'll show you these. Sorry, I didn't realise they're on the wrong pile. Not seen before. It's a set of 4 books by Josiah Bancroft. Lovely condition, all first printings, all almost as new. Apparently they were first self-published and Orbit bought up the rights presumably 3 or 4 years later. As they bought the rights, I'm assuming there must be some merit to them, but I've never heard anything about them, so I can't say much. But £4 for a 4-book as new set I thought was very reasonable. So just to extend the video a little bit, I had a look back to see what I had bought from eBay over the last few months. Not very much, but some interesting books. Well, 2 lots were interesting. The other was very disappointing, but I will show you the 3. Firstly, I got a set of the Ace Lord of the Rings books. As you can see, and they all have, to some extent, some fading. They all have 1 or 2 minor faults as well, not serious. I'll show you the other 2. Sorry about the reflection off the bags. And book 3. Now, as far as I know, I've never had the Ace books before. I did have a copy of the 3rd one, which seems to be slightly more common in the UK. But I've been looking for a nice set for a long time. These aren't perfect, but I've been looking for many years and I didn't think I would find another set. So moderately expensive, but I think I paid a reasonable fair market price, so I was quite pleased. All I would say about the Lord of the Rings, I remember when I was at school, my English literature teacher recommended the books, suggested the whole class should go out and get them and read them. And a week or 2 later, I saw the first 2 in a used bookshop and bought them. And I read the first 2 in about 3 days. I was really impressed, really enjoyed, and went straight back to the shop and bought the 3rd book, even though it broke my book budget those days as a teenager. And those books, if you like, establish my love of fantasy alongside that of science fiction. I think the original books I had were Ballantine editions, or may have been British editions, I can't remember. I mean, in my collection up until recently, I've had the Ballantine box set, but it's in part of my bookcases that are very difficult. That is very difficult to reach, so I haven't seen them for quite a long time. The next book I will show you that I was very pleased to get is this one, Confessions of a Crap Artist by Philip K. Dick. Now, I think there were 7 books by Philip K. Dick that were published by Paladin, and they are fairly difficult to find, especially in nice condition. This one I think is a very nice condition, and usually uses orange for the letters, And as you can see, the lettering on the spine and the back, as well as the front cover, all use the same colour. So although you might think it if you only saw the spine, I don't actually think this is spine faded. So basically a very nice copy. I have the full set of 7, though one is in really rough condition, ex-library, not very good. I suspect, like most collectors, I don't really like ex-library books if I can help it. One set I've been trying to complete, I had 3 vaguely reasonable copies and 2 were ex-library. And I saw one of my ex-library books advertised on eBay as a very good copy. Now, it was put up by a very large dealer that certainly most people in the UK will be aware of, so I won't name them, but I'm sure most people who've used them have from time to time have had problems with condition. So I knew I was taking a chance ordering a very good copy, and when it turned up, surprise surprise, it was ex-library. And I don't know what you think, but I don't think an ex-library book should ever be described as very good unless it also says that it's an ex-library. The one I got, I would hesitate to even describe as good. It's fair in my view. And so I'll show you what I got. This one, Young Legionary by Douglas Hill. The last book in the set and probably the rarest. You can see the library label, there's library stamps. It was not the greatest condition. It's got quite a strong spine lean, and you probably won't be able to see it on the camera. There's a fair old bump at the bottom as well. So to me, this was at best good, so I complained to the seller, and I got a full refund and ended up keeping the book. And this is even worse than the one I already had. So now I've got a spare copy. I don't know whether I should or how I should value it, because it's a relatively rare and expensive book in nice condition. In this condition, who knows? So that's it for my book haul and other miscellaneous bits of information. Paul Cooper, signing on. One thing I think that's it. So I will sign off. Bye.